So, with Benny finally taking a much-deserved vacation, he's asked me to step in as a guest host for This Week in Tumblr, and like any fool would do, I decided I was going to do a theme week, and I've chosen kink-critical feminist Tumblrs, because apparently I'm a glutton for punishment. Being a submissive for nearly 9 years just wasn't enough. Apparently I need to get just a little more abuse in. But hopefully we're going to examine some of the more irritating and troublesome positions, and if you don't learn anything, don't worry. I didn't either. But I'll tell you right now, you're going to want to get a drink. You're going to need to numb some internal wounds that are going to occur. But here we go with This Week in Tumblr, the Kink Critical Feminist Edition. Our first stop on our travels through This Week in Tumblr is with Witchy Wit, who does not appear to have anything resembling any kind of biography, which means that I have no idea what personal knowledge of BDSM they actually have. This leaves me anticipating that their knowledge base is going to be either entirely anecdotal or developed solely from the works of other kink-critical individuals. Witchy opens up with, "You're not a feminist if you think abuse is in any way acceptable ever," which is pretty troublesome, because the definition of abuse is to treat an animal or person with cruelty or violence, especially repeatedly or regularly, which indicates a lack of consent. The definition of safe, sane, and consensual BDSM has consensual as the third component of its acronym. It requires informed consent. What's occurring here appears to be a argument from disbelief on Witchy's part, which is to say that because they have never seen any form of safe, sane, consensual, or healthy BDSM relationship, they do not believe it's in any way likely to exist. They also do not provide any sort of evidence that BDSM relationships are inherently more abusive or damaging than any other relationship type, and they seem to be ignoring the fact that BDSM itself, as an acronym, is used as a catch-all phrase for a huge variety of kinks and fetishes and relationship dynamics. I'm not going to cover all of the things that could fall under that greater umbrella of BDSM, but there will be a link in the low bar. Now, not only is Witchy doing a poor job of endorsing agency, as feminists repeatedly claim they enjoy doing, they are also entirely ignoring the possibility of non-heteronormative BDSM relationships. There are LGBTQ plus people that seek these relationships. There are heteronormative people that seek these relationships. These relationships can be female-led, male-led, non-gender conforming-led. I have seen all of those within this community that I participate in, and I was a male submissive to a female dom once upon a time. I don't know where with Witchy Wit is getting any of what they're saying. There's nothing here to back it up. I'm sorry, Witchy, you're kind of doing a bad job at being critical of anything. Moving on to our second Tumblr blog, we have I Was a Teenage Feminist, and I'm hoping this is every bit as thrilling a ride as I Was a Teenage Werewolf. Got a short bio here. Her name is Marie. Started this blog when she was 16, and she's now 21, and this is her life. And Marie, I'm sorry, this makes me question your life decisions. Glad that you have a direction picked for yourself, but I'm not sure that Tumblr feminism is going to prove to be a fruitful career path for you. I mean, I certainly hope that you can make something of it, and I encourage you to follow your heart. As an interesting side note, she's got the SJW approved Kool-Aid blue hair. So much like a poison tree frog, we know that this individual is not something to trifle with. Moving on to her first claim, she says that calling something consensual does not magically make it okay, which is unusual because my understanding of informed consent means that two or more individuals have gotten together, they have discussed an interaction, informed themselves about the parameters, boundaries, and limits of that interaction, and they've agreed upon the facets of that interaction, which means that it is, in general terms, okay, provided that no actual crimes are being committed. Her next claim is that some, or many actually, people get off on violence. And while I know that you've dedicated your life to Tumblr feminism, Marie, I'm going to have to suggest that you're going to have to adjust your time management skills here, and you're going to have to start providing links because you don't have anything supporting this. And there's no indication anywhere that people fetishize violence. Certainly not here. I've not seen it elsewhere. But I encourage you to revisit your claims in this particular blog, and if you have evidence, I will take a look at it. She then moves on to claim that most straight porn contains at least some violent undertones. And again, there's no citation, and I'm going to have to take one for the team here. I'm going to have to suggest that I'm going to need to do a lot of research, Marie. I'm going to have to ascertain how much straight porn contains at least some violent undertones. And while I'm sure that's disappointing to you, Marie, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. She carries on with, she is always and forever skeptical of any man who likes hitting, choking, spanking, or generally hurting women in any context. Which, on one hand, leaves out all of the women and non-binary and LGBTQ plus individuals who enjoy impact and breath play. Also leaves out the fact that impact and breath play are by no means the entirety of what's included under that big kink umbrella called BDSM. And closing out her article, she says that the only reason that we accept violence against women as a valid sexual fetish is because we sexualize violence against women in general, which seems somewhat redundant and is demonstrably unsupported. Marie, you've done a poor job of supporting your claims. You've not really offered any defense for any of them, but in grand radical feminist style, you've managed to disabuse people of their agency and rob them of their right to informed consent. So you're upholding the values of radical feminism admirably, Marie. Well done. Our third stop this week is Feminism, etc. And in keeping with Tumblr tradition, they have a list of Tumblr identities and preferred pronouns, so we know where they land in the oppressive stack. They've got an anonymous ask, seeking some clarification on their anti-kink and anti-BDSM position. I like that. Try to politely draw out some information from a person who has a different opinion. Hopefully begin a dialogue. And Feminism, etc. has no citations for anything they're going to say, so we're firmly operating in the realm of opinion here. They start with, it's a little bit convenient that the most common dynamic is overwhelmingly male dom, female submissive. I don't have any evidence that any other particular dynamic is more common. They're not citing anything. I'm going to call that one a draw. But then they jump directly into Schrodinger's rapist with, this is one of the reasons men think all women like to be dominated and women like to be raped. Well, that's a strong statement. That's clearly in line with Schrodinger's rapist, claiming that all men like to rape women and that women somehow enjoy the experience. That's misandrist and misogynist. And frankly, the FBI and CDC would like to see you about their reporting, which indicates that 40% of rape victims are male if you are willing to count forced to penetrate, which, oh yeah, that's right, forced to penetrate, other sexual assault. Never mind, let's just keep erasing those victims. Now, one of the few things they're going to say that's going to be valid and important is that people should analyze pretty much everything. No complaints. They then jump into patriarchy theory being the reason that everything is wrong. Kinks that uphold patriarchy, especially white patriarchy, are Horrible, evil things. I'm a high school dropout and I can deconstruct feminist patriarchy theory in under 3 minutes. So no, we're done. That one, sorry. Patriarchy theory is not a crutch, and you're not going to use it to hold up this argument. And the last thing they say that's valid is that they don't have a whole lot to say about straight female dominance, straight male submissives, or same gender BDSM, which on Tumblr is unusual. A lot of Tumblr SJWs will quite happily choose to speak for other groups, and they will speak right over top of people, especially people like me, because I'm a straight cis hetero shitlord. Oh, I'm sorry you couldn't see that. I was tipping my fedora. My bad. And as we round the post and head into the home stretch, we're going to pit stop quickly with Then They Said burnher.tumblr.com, who's demanding radical change. And I hope the first radical change they implement is teaching more of the history of feminism in gender studies classes, because I'm fairly certain after reading this blog post that they missed the classes on political lesbianism. To begin with, they claim that Rad Fems need to critically examine heterosexuality in the exact same manner that they critically examine BDSM. They assert that heterosexuality is nothing more than patriarchal oppression. They slip sideways, almost a segue, into all PIV sex is rape, all BDSM is rape, and women cannot consent in any meaningful manner while trapped in a heteronormative relationship because, of course, patriarchy. I mean, it's right there in the blog. I mean, that's all the evidence we need, right? Moving on to other unsupported material, they suggest that men as a group are animalistic predators, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their opportunity to beat, rape, or kill women. And it's statistically likely that these sorts of things are going to occur. And, I mean, I know I'm harping on this. I banged on it a lot. This getting to be sort of a drum thing with me. Google is not difficult, people. I can handle it. Any one of these bloggers could have spent 3 minutes in Google and come up with a blatantly biased and or completely fabricated study that they could have cited, they could have linked it, they could have slapped it in here somewhere. But no luck so far. They then round out with heterosexuality being entirely unnecessary and simply a method of keeping women unnecessarily bound to men to provide sex, free labor, and children to be indoctrinated into more of the same. Because this person is clearly not the result of heterosexuality. I mean, there's no reason to believe that they would have been the product of a heterosexual relationship. I mean, clearly there's underground, politically lesbian facilities churning out test tube babies. I'm sure that there's some of the political lesbians that are on the cutting edge of asexual division and are, as we speak, cloning Andrea Dworkin so that she can come back and properly re-educate us. Bouncing right along through the kink-critical feminist Tumblr sphere, we get a quick look at Wisecrack's mind, and it's a good thing that their bio says that this blog probably defies logic and good taste, because it's evident. Their first assertion is that kinksters constantly use the "but what about the femdoms" as if they have a trump card, and when Rad Fams answer or address that on their own, spoiler, it's still bad, suddenly the kinksters pretend they didn't hear it. Trump card safe. Well, here's the thing. It's not, but what about the femdoms? It's, what about all of the people that are dominant, that are outside of that one specific gender type? You're erasing a lot of people. Maybe kink critical and radical feminists don't have to be intersectional or don't have to be inclusive, but then I'm going to have to suggest that you need to find a new label, because you're kind of fucking things up for the rest of the feminists that are trying to be intersectional and inclusive. They then claim that kinksters pretend that abused and raped individuals who need to leave the scene don't exist or are mentally ill, which is, I've never seen that happen. I have not seen it happen. Maybe that's an argument from disbelief. I haven't seen reporting on it except for the one Jezebel article, which was third-hand at best. It was an individual who posted something on FetLife, which was then posted by Jezebel. So it happened to a person, they posted about it, and then Jezebel picked it up. Wisecrack would also like to know who's getting into people's bedrooms and kink-shaming them. Well, Really, I mean, if you're going to argue that slut shaming and similar types of shaming are inappropriate, then kink shaming is right up there. It's hypocritical to consider any form of shaming any better or worse than any other kind of shaming. And honestly, I hate to tell you this, but it's none of your damn business what consenting adults do. I don't understand why the private consensual interactions of anybody else has any impact on your life. I just maybe I should have just done the video like that. Just if you don't like kink, don't do it. Stay the fuck out of other people's fucking heads. But wouldn't have made for much fun. They also they question other women who don't agree with them, but they never question the men or women who enjoy hurting them. Actually, I do see people questioning doms about the backgrounds that led them to become dominant. I see people question the submissives about the backgrounds that led them to become submissive. Actually, the only group I really don't see being questioned are the switches, because everybody goes, well, today they're dom, tomorrow they're sub. They're kind of like they're almost like gender fluid, except kink fluid, really. Chugging right along, we arrive at Ask a Rad Fam, which is a blog that exists to bridge the gap between people with honest questions about radical feminism and radical feminists with something to say, which I've never noticed to be a problem. Radical feminists have never been shy about telling us exactly what we need to hear, or what they think we need to hear, or what we need to be educated on, or how we're wrong, or fuck you, patriarchy, that's what. They do caution that the answers provided herein are purely the opinions of the radical feminist answering the question and not reflective of the entire team. Sorry, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be associated with whatever particular position a given answering Rad Fam has. But Anonymous asks, so to be a Rad Fam, you have to have no kinks at all and hate porn of any kind. I would question that that's all you need to be a Rad Fam. I'm fairly certain that the SJW approved palette of hair colors factors in so that we can identify you as a threat and avoid you appropriately. But the response from Blossom, who I assume is one of the radical feminists here, is that you have to commit to no longer engaging in things that are harmful to women as a whole. This includes kink and porn. I'm going to add a couple more things that would be more important, actually. Not denying women agency and the right to informed consent, not facilitating a hysterical, fabricated rape culture in which women are taught to fear for their personal safety constantly, and being supportive of all victims of rape instead of attempting to erase all of the ones that don't fit your narratives. I think those are important things that will help women as a whole. I think that's actually potentially a better list, but I'm not a Rad Fam, so I'm fairly certain that my answer's not going to be reblogged, which is sort of too bad. I think I kind of hit the nail on the head. Maybe even hit the nail with the hammer. And finally, for our final stop, we have Rapists Doms and Others.tumblr.com, where kink culture and rape culture collide. You know what? No, I'm done. This is a really long blog, and I'm going to tap out because this blog is just, it's like somebody took a fire hose, hooked it up to a hydrant filled with stupid, and just started spraying it across Tumblr, because this one, I think, literally takes every single piece of feminist rhetoric and narrative and theory and crams it in and demands that we accept that patriarchy and rape culture are fundamental underpinnings of our entire society. I just can't even grasp how this person came to the conclusions they came to. But oh my God, it's painful. This is actually a very painful blog to read. It's the background's fine, but they claim that one guy having been an abusive bastard means that all men are. BDSM only occurs in the context of patriarchal rape culture. They're slut shaming when they object to BDSM. Well, you are. Actually, you're kink shaming, which is largely no different than slut shaming. tries to explain away the fact that they're not respecting the agency of women who choose to engage in BDSM, and that women engaging as submissives have societal Stockholm syndrome. They hammer on about the normalization of male abuse of women and 50 Shades of Grey. Apparently, we go back to the majority of BDSM occurs in a male-dominant, female-submissive context. They have an uncited claim about a study from AVN which involves best-selling and most rented movies where only 3% of the total spankings that occurred on screen involved men as recipients. I have to ask how old this particular study is, because I don't know anybody who buys or rents particularly much porn. I mean, that's what pornmd.com is for, folks. Hopefully I can get some kind of a sponsorship deal out of this. And apparently men are an inherent dominator class, and men are only trying on feminized roles during their submissive engagements. And the existence of male submissives in BDSM practice does nothing to excuse, nullify, or disprove the fact that violence against women is inherent to BDSM, because let's just go back to erasing all the other people who do it. Okay. That's me tapping. I'm done. No, done. I'm sorry. This is literally painful. I would love to see these people actually come up with something other than repetitions of patriarchy theory, rape culture, and a near fetish for not citing a damn thing. God. Not one study to be seen in 6 blogs. Holy fuck. Well, thank you for coming along on this magical ride through Kink Critical Tumblr. It's been a pleasure having you, and I don't know that I taught anybody anything, but hopefully I can find myself some brain bleach and scrub the stupid out.